Hey, this is Dave with the Shepherd School, and we're just going to do a little walkthrough of what we're doing in our garden this year. Okay, two and one apple, grafted semi-dwarf, only going to get about 10 foot tall. Two types of apples on there for an extended harvest. Some are better for eating, some are better for storage, and because I've got two apples on one tree, I could have only just planted one tree and got my pollination done. 2-in-1 pear, 2-in-1 plum. Okay, same deal. Now those yellow tire planters are something new. In the far end I've got tobacco. The next one I've got sunflowers, right? And then the rest of them are all potatoes, and I've got 3 seed potatoes in each one. Okay, and then over there by the fence post I have one little seedless grape that I put in this year. Okay, and it seems to be doing pretty good. And here we are, like I said, suburban neighborhood, so you can do stuff, but you've got to get out and actually try. Okay, so then I've got my raised beds, 3 regular box hives, and then I've got 1 top bar hive. I have to mow a little bit of my grass, but going up that hill is kind of hard. I got to get my weed eater running before I mess with that. Along the fence row I have some Kiowa blackberries. They're a really large strain of blackberry. They're about half the size of my palm. They're really big, really thorny. And so my intent was to build all along this fence row a big thicket of blackberries trained to run on the fence row, and that you know, the thorns and stuff kind of prevents people from messing with my fence, and then gives the blackberries a place to grow. Just like before, I've got the far end basil and marigold growing in the center block centers. And then 1 row is all peppers. I've got sweet peppers and hot peppers, different varieties in there. They're probably not going to run true to seed because they're so close, but you know, hey, I can always get more seed. Then the other row is all tomatoes, and they're all the same strain. 3 sisters. This year it's doing a lot better because it's warmer. Corn likes heat, right? And last year what I did is I didn't put them in an area that got enough sun, and I planted all 3 sisters at the same time, and so the squash and the peas kind of shaded the corn. So when I did a little bit more research, it said to let the corn get about 6 inches before you plant anything else. And instead of doing squash, because I don't really like squash, I put cucumbers in there because cucumbers and corn are companion plants, and the cucumbers are still going to shade the corn to keep the weeds out. So I've got Cherokee beans in the far half, and then I've got a new variety of pole beans in the closer half, interspaced in with cucumber seeds and corn. Okay, and then I've got marigold growing in the centers that hasn't really sprouted out that much. And then in the far end, in the 2 corners, I've got some strawberries, and I plan to put strawberries, you know, each year a couple more in there. I was going to grow tobacco in that bed, but I really don't smoke, and so it's more of an experiment, and I kept coming up with new ideas to plant. So this has got onions, peas, watermelon, and carrots. Okay, and then like I said, marigold growing in the centers to keep out nematodes. That one, I can't really tell you what's in it. I know there's some California poppy, I know there's some milk thistle, there's some lavender, some bee balm. Basically I just took all medicinal herbs that have flowers that bees like, and just tossed them in there randomly. Okay, and as I look at that, there's a whole bunch of different looking seedlings coming up, and hopefully that's going to do pretty well. My potatoes, last year it didn't do too good for a couple reasons. One is it was all clay soil and they really couldn't spread out, so I dug it out and put my topsoil in there. Seed potatoes coming up pretty good. And the other reason is I just put a straw in there, and I found out that mice had nested in there, and when I went to harvest them, what I harvested was a bunch of mice, and they ate all my potatoes. So this year I'm going to do topsoil in it as it fills up. Okay. Back to the back end of the house and to the more trashy neighborhood part of the neighborhood here. Due to the baby coming and the wife nesting, had to move the fish outdoors. It's not cold enough, or it's kind of cold for them, so they're not gaining weight like they should. But I don't like running the extension cord out here to run the heater. It's warm enough for them to survive, but they're just not optimal temperature. But they're doing pretty good, and they get to eat some mosquito larvae that comes into the water. I've got a bunch of cute cabbage growing in my bed there, and since I have natural light and the right kind of light, it's doing really well. Okay, something new we're trying this year. We got us some ducks, little ducklings. I got two little pecans, and this, I can't remember the variety, but basically it's a mallard that's developed as a meat mallard, and so he can't fly because mallards, they're pretty, but they're wild, and then they fly away. So I've got three little ducks because ducks are creatures that like companions, and they don't do very well unless you have a couple of them. And this hopefully is going to spur me into digging my pond, which I ought to be doing today. But since it's Easter Sunday, I didn't want to do a whole lot of physical labor. And these guys are just in here because I could shut that off or let them get to the right size where they could survive on their own. And I couldn't put them in the chicken tractor because dogs have came in and got into my pen and ate all my big chickens, so I have more small chickens. Here's our chickens. We've got about 10 straight run chickens. Whatever turns out to be a rooster. Obviously we're going to try out the chicken plucker again. And the best 6 layers, we have 6 layers out of that, we're going to keep. So they're in the chicken tractor because we had the great chicken escape fueled by some co-conspirators, some dogs, some neighborhood dogs. Unfortunately, the chickens didn't know that once they got out of the pen, the dogs weren't going to be their friends anymore. And unfortunately, Bear was one of them. He was kind of the ringleader, kind of helped figure out how to break open the gate to the chicken run, and so he's no longer here. We went out and found us a nice family that had a farm and a bunch of other great Pyrenees and a little 9-year-old, and so Bear is now the companion to a little 9-year-old boy that really likes dogs. And so hopefully, being on the farm rather than in this backyard all by his lonesome, he'll be having a better life and won't be so destructive, out of boredom. So I hated to send him off, thought real hard about it, but in the end I think it's better for him, and I think it's a lot better for the chickens. Okay, and here's our rabbits. We've got our breeding trio there, or actually it's a quad, 3 does and a buck, and then we've got the grout cages with all the little babies. You generally don't want to keep rabbits in a big communal cage like that, but it's okay when they're young. And for some reason, I don't know, maybe it was designed that way, about the time where they're too old, too big to want to live communally, they're about the right size for butchering, and they're getting pretty close to that point. So here before too long we'll have you a video looking at the chicken butchering. I know I probably need to scoop out some of that manure and spread it out among my plants, but I'm also trying vermicasting with some red worms in there to kind of keep down on the smell a little bit, which it's not really noticeable being out here, but also kind of breaking that down. And the worms, maybe eventually I can get enough to start feeding them to the fish. All right, there's our garlic. Okay, and like I said on the website, and I've said several times, I don't know anything about what I'm doing. That's why I'm out here trying it, right? When I showed the how to grow the garlic video, I didn't know enough to tell you that you've got to, or you're supposed to put the bulbs in where the grass part comes up. I just put them in there sideways. I just basically just tossed them in there. Apparently it's easier on them if you orientate them where it's pointy side up. But as you can see, I do have some garlic coming up. They won't be as big as they would have been had they been set out all year, but still, they're okay. This is the bed that I put the ginseng in. All my other raised beds along this hillside I've left alone this year. Basically let them grow whatever they want to grow, and I'll put the ginseng in them as it matures. Now the tinker in me wants to come in here and weed and find the little ginseng plants and check on them. But wild simulated ginseng needs the whole Darwin survival of the fittest struggle, okay, to look and act like wild ginseng. So we're gonna leave it alone, even though it's killing me. And maybe in 5 years from now I'll have a ginseng plant in this trough. I might have 10, who knows, right? But I'm going to continue this out long term and see what happens. Now this isn't an update so much as a vision, right? Start of a project. Right here, what I want to do is dig me a pond with a bunch of terraced little waterfalls, right? And I'm starting with a little bucket there, right? And I've got a bunch of little waterfall things. I got a big tarp, and my idea is it gives me a water feature for the bees, lets me grow some stuff in the terraces, makes it where I won't have to mow this hill because I hate mowing that hill. Lets me have the fish out here year round. I'll probably move from tilapia to something that can handle the cold a little better, maybe catfish. So you know, give me fish, give me some feed, and makes it where I don't have to mow this hill. And you know, it'll look cool, and I do like looking at ponds. So that's the update of everything going on here at our little urban suburban homestead. And until next time, you can always catch us online, www.tngun.com.